All right, we're back, and we got a very, very, very special guest on the show today. And this has been long overdue, but I guess good things happen to those who wait. And this is a special episode because it happens to fall on a very unique day. And I can't believe that she's finally able to give us her side of the story. And please let us know, for those out there, your name and where are you from? And thanks for being on the show.
You're welcome. My name is Andrea Perron, and the movie The Conjuring was made about my childhood experiences here at the Conjuring House, which that's what it's known as now. But it's really the Richardson Arnold homestead. The land for it was deeded in 1680. The house, as it stands right now, was completed in 1736. And the movie is a fictional, mostly fictional portrayal of what actually happened during the 10 years that I lived here in this house where I grew up with my four sisters and my parents. And all these years later, 50 years later, I'm back here, greeting guests and doing tours and uh, just spending Halloween at my childhood home.
And you're actually there as we speak at the moment.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm in the trailer that's right adjacent to the house because the spirits don't like it when we bring tech in. They'll really interfere with it, sometimes mess up the computer. I don't know why. So I did it in the safest place that I could, which is in front of the house. It's kind of tucked in to the woods right beside the house.
And what's so interesting, we actually had a bit of a delay before we started because we still managed to have some technical difficulties, even though you're not in the house. For some reason, we still weren't able to, get it together as far as we still had some problems. So it's very interesting how to this day, I feel like you still have these things that occur when you
Oh,
step
yeah.
foot near this place of residence. Um, just getting brief into it. I just want to get into the intro real quick before we begin the interview. And it's been an honor to have you in my presence. And thank you so much once again, Andrea, for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you were at a big event yesterday, correct?
Yes, I've been in 4 states in 3 days. I started in New Jersey, then flew into Rhode Island, then went out to Cape Cod and did an event there. And now I'm back in Rhode Island at the house, and then I'm going to Boston tomorrow to go on a cruise ship that's in from Great Britain to speak to a bunch of people from the UK about what we had, and then I get to fly home to the south where it's much, much warmer than it is here. I'm freezing.
How do you manage to do all these things? I mean, a woman have no offense, but a woman like at
I
your
did.
age,
Yeah,
how do you keep it together?
165. Yeah, I did. I'm officially old. I am Medicare old.
Well,
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't say old. I would say, as they say, like wine, you age well, and that's amazing how you're able to still travel and do all these things, and you're continuously working, and to be at all these places, it's amazing to me. I mean, that's awesome. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
So you enjoy what you do, I'm assuming.
I love what I do.
That's
And
awesome.
when I was having breakfast with two of my childhood friends who I met as soon the first day that I was enrolled at Burrowville High School or junior high school. My two friends, Tim and Ray, who I write about in my books, because they've had experiences here too, and all their family had come to this house when we were kids, and we were reminiscing about what it was like, and back at a time when this was not something that people normally talked about, and so it was really wonderful to see them this morning and to be able to slip away from
Wow.
doing tours and stuff, to go have breakfast with them and just catch up. It was wonderful.
It bring you back to, like, that inner peace and people that you can truly connect with.
Yes, absolutely. They're like my brothers. I'm the
Wow.
eldest of five girls, and Tim and Ray are my brothers. They're like my
Exactly.
spirit brothers. Yeah.
That's awesome. Now let's get into this intro and we'll be right back.
Welcome to the Jmack Experience Podcast. This show is for motivational purposes only. However, we will not be politically correct, but our goal is to inspire those who listen and watch the show. Thanks for tuning in. Please be sure to follow us at the Jmack Experience Podcast and email us if you would like to be a guest on our platform at the Jmack Experience Podcast at gmail.com. Peace.
Now, getting straight to it, I know that you said you are the oldest of five siblings, and all girls to be exact. I know that the movie, I know we've spoken a few times, and I know the movie that you said, it wasn't really what people portrayed it to be. And it's completely different from what you actually went through. And it's so interesting because as I was researching a few things today, you're actually the main character of the movie.
Well, I'm one of them, but yes, I mean, we were all affected by it, John. Every one of
Right.
us. My mother was the one that, really went through the toughest time in the house. There's a spirit here, that did not want her here, and
Wow.
she wanted the rest of us, but not my mom. And we referred to her as the original mistress of the house. And I think my mother, uh, in some way, for some reason, posed a threat to her. And I think that she just wanted to, maybe, relive vicariously, with us as her family. I
Wow.
can't explain it. I don't know how to explain it, John. But I do know that my mother, uh, at times suffered in this house. And then, the movie leaves people with the impression that my mom sought out Ed and Lorraine Warren, and she didn't. She didn't know who they were when they showed up at that door, just outside this trailer that I'm sitting in. They showed up, um, uh, 50 years ago last night, and
Wow.
on October 30th of 1973. And that was because another paranormal investigator, a younger man, had been here and experienced the house, and he told them about what was happening here. And then they came. He told them, I guess, in like August or September of that year, what was happening, and they waited until the night before Halloween to come because they thought that that was the best chance they would have in terms of having experiences in the house. And so, when they came to the door, my mom had no idea who they were. And she, let them in, of course. It was freezing cold that night, the same way it is tonight. And, she, let them in, and they identified themselves as Ed and Lorraine Warren. She had no idea what that meant. Um, and she never invited any paranormal investigators to the house. Like I said, it was a different time, John. This was a very taboo subject. It was not something that people talked about. And, to this day, she doesn't understand how the original investigators came, a group named Pyro from Rhode Island College. And they're the ones, they just showed up in the yard, and Keith Johnson, who was the leader of the group, said that my mother had called him. And she said, I never called anybody. She didn't
Wow.
understand why they were here. And then they brought the Warrens in, who immediately kicked them to the curb because they were much younger. They, I guess, perceived as kids. who didn't know what they were talking about. But Keith and his brother grew up in a haunted house, and that's why they were so fascinated and launched themselves into paranormal investigation, which they still do to this day. And So the Warrens came and began an investigation with my mother's permission. My father didn't want them here at all. He didn't trust them. He didn't like them. He thought they were going to exploit our family, and he didn't really want anything to do with them at
He
all.
thought it was like a scam, right? Probably.
Yeah, 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 he did. And, they did. Oh, hold on. Let me turn my volume down on my phone. I always forget to do this.
No
Oh my
worries.
God. Oh my God. Hold on. It's always something with me.
No
Um,
worries.
it's
Take your
okay.
time.
And sound down. All right. There we go. See, all set.
No
Sound down.
worries.
And So, my mom trusted Lorraine, and spoke very freely with her, spoke very openly with her, explaining what things had happened to us the first, couple 3 years that we were living here. And Ed Warren spoke with me and my four younger siblings, and so they began to document things. But then, unfortunately, as they came, I guess, 4 or 5 times over the course of about a year and a half. But the last time they came, um, they brought a medium and a priest and cinematographers and audio specialists, and insisted that a seance need to be conducted in the house because they wanted to know who the culprit was that was stirring up trouble in the house. But unfortunately, in so doing, it released a very negative energy, something that I don't call it a demon. I've never seen a demon. I don't know if demons exist. I do know that there is evil in the world, and whatever they conjured up, that's how the movie got its name, The Conjuring,
Wow.
from that seance.
Interesting.
And I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a cold, so pardon my
No
voice.
worries.
And being in ice cold conditions coming from the south, I'm like having a little adjustment problem.
It's getting the best of you, huh?
It is just
The
a
weather
little bit.
change.
Yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. But they conducted a seance against my father's wishes that night, and the medium threw open wide the doors to the netherworld with 4 of the 5 of us in the house of the kids, which I consider that spiritual malpractice. We were exposed to something that none of us should ever have seen. And it was terrible. My mother was
So
levitating.
instead of helping the situation, they just made it worse.
They did. And I don't believe that they did that on purpose. I think they were really legitimately trying to help. But
Okay.
Lorraine Warren told me 40 years later, when I met her for a private screening of The Conjuring out in LA, that they were in over their heads the moment they crossed the threshold of this house. They just didn't understand how significant it was, what was going on here. But
Wow.
yeah, my mother was picked up in the chair she was sitting in, and in a split second, she was thrown from the middle of our dining room into the middle of our parlor, and all of us saw her hit the floor and heard her head, her skull hit the floor, and she was knocked unconscious. And my father threw the Warrens out, and all of their people just threw them out of the house. And when they left, they didn't even know if she was alive. And it took my dad about an hour to get her back into consciousness. She had a severe concussion. It was terrible. It was awful. And my
Wow.
mom has no memory of it. Thank God. My mother has no memory of that night and that incident. And then they came back a couple of months later, and I think they came back to see if my mother was still alive, because they didn't know if she had survived what happened to her that night when they left this house.
Now, after all this, just maybe just moving forward a little bit more. How long till after all this did you guys end up staying in the home in total before you
We
finally
stayed
left?
here. We stayed here for 10 years. The last time,
Wow.
the last time that we saw the Warrens was in August or September, I guess, of 1974. So we lived here until 1980, until June of 1980. So there were a lot of things that happened in this house that they never even knew about. And of course, The Conjuring was not based on my books. Um, I started writing my books in 2007.
And this is, by the way, not to cut you off, make sure you all get a copy. The House of
Volume
Darkness,
one.
House
Yep.
of Light, Volume 1, Volume
Yep.
2, and I also have Volume 3. Make sure you get yours now. Where can they purchase these wonderful books, Andrea?
Oh, they're all well. You can get them, order them anywhere. But they're 500 plus pages a piece.
Oh,
So
yeah, I haven't even finished Volume 1.
I know they're a lot. It's a lot.
I got
But
mine signed.
you did, yes, you did at the Ocean State Paracon, which is where we met. Yep, yep. And I met you and I was like, oh, this man, he's so kind, he's so gentle, he's so generous. You fed me that day. You fed me. You wouldn't take a dime of money from me. You
No, not
feed
at all.
me. And I was so hungry and I wasn't feeling well because it was a very, very hot day that we were doing the event, and I was struggling because it was an outside event. And you hydrated me and you fed me and kept me going. So I am eternally grateful to you. Best
Oh,
food
no.
I ever ate. Oh my God.
No worries, no worries. That's what we're here for. We're all humans. We're here to help one another. And listen, it was my pleasure. And honestly, it's so crazy because everyone knew who you were, and I honestly didn't know. Well, I honestly, well, I knew after like people were telling me. I'm like, oh, that's the lady, like, because I've seen the movie, but I couldn't put it together, because I'm big on horror films and stuff, but. It was very interesting, and it's a pleasure to even have you now in my contacts. It's amazing how the world works, and as they say, like you just said, I did a good deed, and look, everything happens for a reason. But all right, so now you started writing these books. What got you into writing? That's the focal point on what I want to focus on. What inspired you to start writing? I mean, was it? I know it wasn't from one day to another. Who inspired you to get into writing your own memoirs, your own autobiography? Who inspired that?
I really have to say that something changed in the universe. And it was almost like a bell went off in my head saying, it's time, it's time. And more than 30 years had passed since I had
Wow.
lived in this house. And our family, we never really talked about this. When we left this house, my mother said, I will never go back to that house, and she never has. And the only time that, and we rarely even talked about our experiences amongst ourselves, let alone with other people. But it was almost like something just clicked in my head. It was like, it's time to tell this story. And
The way you wanted to tell it, right? That's probably what it was, right?
right,
You didn't want no one to tell it for you.
right.
You wanted to tell it how you wanted to tell it.
Yeah, and then I started writing the books, and not long after, I got a phone call from a Hollywood producer. I hadn't told
Wow.
anybody except who was the current owner of the house at the time that I was writing our story. And when the producer called her, and then she said, well, I know the eldest daughter, because I only lived about 10 miles from here at the time. And she said, I'll give you her number and you can talk to her. And that's how the whole Conjuring thing started. But they didn't use my books. James Wan and everybody associated with the film read my books.
Also, the book inspired the movie.
No, it didn't. The case
Oh.
files of Ed and Lorraine Warren are what
Oh,
they used for the movie.
got you.
And my books are much deeper, much darker, much denser. And they couldn't to their. I don't blame them. They
It's
couldn't
too
put
much to put into a
10 years
movie.
into a
Yeah.
2 hour movie. They couldn't.
Right.
And but they did cherry pick a little bit from my books. However, interestingly, um, every time the screenwriters tried to incorporate elements of the true story, the executives at Warner Brothers said, take that out. That'll scare people right out of the theater. What's the point of making a movie nobody stays to watch? And so,
Wow.
yeah. So the books tell the whole story. House of Darkness, House of Light, as it was both. My mother is the one that titled the story because she said it was
Wow.
both. We learned everything that we needed to know about life and death and the afterlife from living in this house right here, right outside this window.
And what I find so interesting, you stated that you never wanted to leave the house. I
I
mean,
never did. No, I loved it here. I loved it here. I mean, I found it fascinating. And there were times that it was frightening, yes, because bizarre things happened that you couldn't explain. But I was never attacked. I was afraid for my family. There were people in my family that suffered. My mother, my sister Cindy, particularly, the
right.
spirits were not always kind to either one of them. And one spirit in particular that I spoke about already. But in retrospect, I look back on it now, and what we might have perceived as threatening or an attack might have just been them trying to get our attention and to be acknowledged. So it's a learning curve. It's a process, a real process in terms
Can,
of coming to understand it.
can we agree that maybe it became normal to you after a while, that you wasn't just bothered anymore by it?
Yes, absolutely. That's absolutely true.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. I guess after a while, when you go through like certain things in life, it just you become immune to it. I would say, right?
We got used to it. We did. We
Yeah.
got used to living in a house alive with death. We did. We knew we felt like we knew them. There were benevolent spirits in this house that would watch over us. They were kind spirits too. It wasn't all evil, not by a long shot. It was their house first, John. It was
Right.
their house first. And we needed to be respectful and honor them. And they had something to impart and to teach us. And I believe that we were supposed to stay in this house for the full decade that we did, so that we could learn what they had to teach us, so that 30 years later, I could tell the story and share it with the world.
Now, if you want the full story, everybody out there, and you really want, if you're into scary movies and all that stuff, you want the full enchilada. Make sure you get all three books. It's definitely worth it. I started reading volume one. I have it, and it's definitely worth the money. You're gonna get a bang for your buck. Make sure you get them right now, and you can get them on Amazon. You can get them on all platforms. Correct?
Yeah, but
Even
Amazon
but
is the best deal. And
right.
very often they run them all three for a reduced price. So that's the very best way to get them is on Amazon.
Do you have your own website?
I don't have a website right now. I'm redoing it with my assistant, kind of bringing it into the 21st century because it's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
old and stale, and like it's been around for a long time. So over the winter, when we don't have a lot of traveling to do, she and I are going to work together and create a new website that's even more full of information and photos, family photos, details that didn't exist in my original one.
That's exactly what was gonna be my next question. Do you? I feel like you should have more besides the books. Maybe you should have a little bit more merchandise because people will buy. I feel like maybe like some T-shirts, some hoodies, maybe some hats. I feel like old pictures. I think posters, things like that. People like all those things. Like I think it's definitely a market. You probably be able to I mean, sad to say, profit, but you can probably make some money off of that stuff. I mean, before somebody else does it, you might as well reap all the.
Well,
You went through it. Why not?
I have
Yeah,
posters, I have pictures, I have stuff. My books we sell. They have a merchandise room. They turned the old summer kitchen here at the house into a merchandise room. And I have some things that are for sale here, and as I travel, I bring them around. But really, for me, it's honest to God, John. I know it's hard to believe, but it's not about the money. It's
it's
about
not
the
about the money.
message. It's
It's
just
about the
not.
message.
I mean, I'm probably, if not certainly one of, if not the best-selling author in this genre worldwide.
Wow.
I do fine just selling my books because people are legitimately interested in this story. And and I'd give my books away if I could afford to, I would. It's
Yeah.
really much more about sharing this story with people and having them think bigger about the expansion of human consciousness to understand that we are not alone, that we are loved by our ancestors and our those that we've loved that have passed on, that still watch over us and that interact, and we're the ones that need to be open to that, so that we
Right.
can have those experiences. To me, that's what's important about our story.
That's excellent. Now, besides these 3 volumes, do you plan on writing anything else in the future, or is this it for you?
No, I wrote a book with a friend of mine, George R. Lopez, called In a Flicker.
Okay.
And it's a historical, a mixture of fact and fiction of the story of Jack the Ripper, which is very
Oh,
dark. It's
I like
very
that one.
dark. It's hard to get through. I mean, and the very worst of it comes directly from the annals of English history. But it's a fabulous story, and he came up with the story. I just helped him write it, and then I've released a book, but I've only been selling it privately for the last few years, called A Wonder to Behold about extraterrestrials. And I'm expanding it, making an extended edition of it right now, and I will release it worldwide in 2024.
Also, it's soon to come out.
Yes, well, it's been out. I mean, I've been selling it to my followers,
Right.
but it's very critical of the government. And well, let me put it to you this way: I refer to the not only our government but all governments as the lying liars who lie.
Also, like
Because
Aliens, Area
yeah, yeah,
51. Oh,
yeah,
that's interesting.
yeah,
I
and it's
definitely need a copy.
okay.
I
And
definitely.
when I re-release it and I put it out on the open market instead of selling it privately, I'll make sure you get a copy of it.
Please do. That's awesome. Now, another question that I had: do you sometimes get a little irritated by people asking you the same questions constantly,
Nope,
or it doesn't bother you at all?
not at all.
Okay.
There's no stupid question. There's just stupid answers. And the way that I look at it is, if anybody's asking me something, they legitimately want to know. So I answer it. I've done thousands of interviews, John, thousands of interviews, incalculable. I would never be able to know exactly how many I've done over all these years. And I get asked the same questions a lot, and I answer them just as openly and freely as I'm speaking with you, dear.
That's
Because
awesome.
because there might be somebody out there that doesn't know anything at all about this story, and this is the first they're hearing about it, and they deserve a proper answer to the question.
Exactly. Now, as far as meet and greets, how can people maybe like book you for a meet and greet or stuff like? I'm sure obviously you have a manager, but is it like as simple as just an email or contacting your manager and stuff like that? Is it's not very difficult, or is it a process? I'm pretty sure you have a really hectic schedule. I'm assuming,
I do.
correct?
I do, but a lot of the events that I go to every year, over and over
Oh,
again. Ocean State Paracon, I never miss it.
okay.
The Upper Peninsula Michigan Paracon, never miss it. I do UFO conventions, I do paranormal conventions, and if anybody wants to follow where I'm going, my agent takes care of everything for me. I can't do it all alone anymore. And but if they want to find me on, I don't have an Instagram account. I don't have a Twitter account. I don't have a, I stay on Facebook, which is manageable. And so I have a main Facebook page and my fan page, which I actually created because I'm a fan of my fans and I want them to be able to be in touch. Is called Buttercup Brigade,
Buttercup.
BUTTERCUP. Yeah, John Zappis calls me Buttercup, and
Perfect.
my little dog's name is Buttercup. And so, she's kind of like our mascot, Princess Peanut Buttercup, my little dog, and Chihuahua. And yeah, just log on to Facebook and go ask to join Buttercup Brigade. And if somebody's doing an event, they can reach my admin and my manager, my agent right through there. And they
Okay,
can meet
so
from
Buttercup Brigade, you heard it, folks. Buttercup Brigade. We're gonna take a brief intermission, and we're gonna get into a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back, and that was a word from our sponsor. We're here with Andrea Perron. It's been an honor once again to have you on the show. Thank you so much once again. Now, we left off where they can contact you at, and if they want to book you, you said they can hit you up on social media. You said you do have a fan page, and that was called the
Buttercup Brigade. Yep.
Buttercup Brigade. So you heard it, folks, Buttercup Brigade, and you can also contact her agent through that page, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the name of your agent, what's the name of your agent?
Her name is Greta Reefert.
Greta Reefer. That's awesome. That's
Represents
awesome.
a lot of people in paranormal. But she's a close friend of mine. We've known each other for many, many years, and she came on as my agent probably about 5 or 6 years ago.
That's great. That's great. Now, do you also do private events, or you only do like big events?
Pretty much really big events, and my mother is in failing health. She just turned 84 in August, and we have her in hospice palliative care at home. And
Sorry to
so
hear that.
my family is the most important thing in the world to me. And so I've tried to, I cut back on the events that I did this year as my mother has been struggling. Um, and I don't know what 2024 looks like. I will be at the big events that I normally do. I'll be at the big events, but I don't know what it looks like. And all I know is that I have to be there with her. That's the most important thing.
Now, what do you got? I know you're at the actual home once again. We did mention that at the beginning. And what do you got planned for today on Halloween? What are you doing at the actual home? What are you doing today?
Well, there are a lot of tours today, so I
Okay.
kind of scooched out to come and join you for a little period of time. And then tonight, last night, they showed The Conjuring here at the house. The place was packed. And then I answer, yep, and then I answer the any questions that people have, because they want to know what's real about the movie and what's not. And so I answer all of those questions, and about 5% of the movie is actually exactly right, and the rest of it was conjured up in the minds of screenwriters who thought that that's what people wanted to see. And
Wow.
I don't think I call it Hollyweird instead of Hollywood, because I don't think that they understand. I don't think that they give people credit for intelligence. I don't that they think that people just want the same old formula and method, like regurgitating the same thing. Like there was no exorcism in our house. My mother was not possessed. My mother was attacked by something that came through that was invited in by a medium that Ed and Lorraine Warren brought, and it almost cost her her life. You know, that's
Wow.
way more intense than what actually happened in the movie. But, you know, the executives at Warner Brothers thought it was too intense, and they wouldn't really, they read my books. Everybody associated with the film read my books. And James Wan said to me, "Oh, hell no. We are not going. We're not even stepping foot in Rhode Island. He wouldn't come to this farm. He wouldn't even come to the state." And he ended up choosing a house in North Carolina, of all places. It's
Wow, way out of Rhode Island.
way out of Rhode Island. And it's really funny too, because they had to hire a team of men to crawl up into the trees around the house and pull all the Spanish moss out. Because, of course, Spanish moss does not grow in Rhode Island. Um, and it was worth it to them to do that and to be off site, away from this place, because, you know, he said it scared the hell out of him. The books scared the hell out of him, and he just thought it was so intense. He couldn't even wrap his mind around it. So they ended up using the script that they used, and you know, but that movie, you know, John, the movie is masterfully crafted, and even though it doesn't tell even a little of the whole truth, it leaves people with a general overarching impression that good conquers evil, that love conquers fear, that the Perron family endured an extreme haunting that we all survived. And all of that is true. It also leaves people with the impression that the Warrens moved in and in a matter of a few days solved all of our problems, and then that was it, and happily ever after. And nothing could have been further from the truth. You know, in fact, their presence in the house seemed to aggravate the spirits. It seemed to stir stuff up. But, you know, we made peace with them. We did. And when it was time to leave in 1980, half of our family never wanted to leave this house, and half of us never wanted to look back. And in a way, it kind of fractured our family.
So can we agree that you're kind of grateful that the movie did come out, even though you weren't completely happy about the depiction of it, but
yeah,
kind of grateful that they did make a movie about it, right?
John, I would not be a best-selling author if it weren't for The Conjuring.
Wow.
Because people who are serious about paranormal investigation and seriously fascinated and curious about it, they seek out my books. They do want the true story. They want the real story. And so they find the books, and it changes their lives. It changes their lives. They never ever think about anything the same way again after reading our story. And so if it hadn't been for The Conjuring, my story, our family story, would probably be languishing in obscurity like a million other stories, because a feature film was never made about their story. So
Right.
I'm grateful for it. And I really do believe that everything happens for a reason. Everything.
That's awesome. What's next for Andrea Perron? What's next? What do you got in the works?
I'm going out to LA in a couple of weeks to shoot another movie, which I believe is actually going to be a series, with a producer friend of mine. And I have several movies out right now. Two that are particularly good. There's a lot of documentaries swirling around, and of course they get a lot of airplay at this time of the year. I've made a lot of documentaries over the years. But the new ones that are out, there are two. And they're both available on Prime Video and in a number of other platforms. Apple TV has them. They're out there.
What's the
And the
name?
first, Beyond the Grave,
Okay.
is the first one, and that's all about ghosts and spirits in the afterlife. And then the second one is We Are Not Alone, and that's
Nice.
all about extraterrestrials.
Well, if you need any actors, be sure to reach out. My daughter's trying to get into horror movies. She's 9, and she loves horror films. So, she's been trying to get her foot in the door. So, just throwing it out there. That's awesome. So you got another series coming out. That's awesome, and it doesn't have a title yet. I'm assuming, correct?
No, not yet. We haven't
Okay.
settled on the title, although I think I know what it's going to be, but I don't want to say and then throw people off. But yeah, and I've got 2 more movies coming out in the next couple of months. I mean, all I did all through COVID was make films. That's
That's
what I did
awesome.
all through COVID because we were in self-contained sets where, we could keep our distance from each other. And
Right.
I still caught COVID 5 times. I caught COVID 5 times.
Oh my lord.
But I mean, it was that, or, go lock yourself in a room and wait for the pandemic to be over. So as soon as the vaccines were available, I started getting the shots and I got out into the world. And, I need my people. I need my para people around me because they're the ones, as far as I'm concerned, that get it. They
Yes.
understand how important a subject this is. And so as soon as I was able to go back out into the world, I did. And, and it's why I was at Ocean State Paracon. It's why I met you. And make no mistake, you and I were supposed to meet each other. We were supposed to. And then we were supposed to have this interview, and we are going to be friends for life. There's no question in my mind about that.
That's so crazy. It's so crazy because I didn't even know you were doing. Because I do acting too. My daughter does acting. It's amazing. Everything works in mysterious ways. It's amazing. Because I'm a jack of all trades. People always say like I do the food thing, I do this, I do the podcast. And everything happens for a reason. It's just like you said that you're grateful for the movie to come out because you wouldn't be able to sell as many books as you did because of the movie, and it's amazing. It's amazing. And once again, they can follow you on social media.
Buttercup Brigade.
Buttercup Brigade.
Go and follow my main page, and everything that I do, everything that's coming up is on those pages.
Awesome.
It's all posted there. My admins take care of all of that. I don't have time to do that stuff, but they do. But I do go on regularly and I interact with people. And I have 2 shows that I do every Friday night. One is called Soul School Sojourn, premise being that Earth is soul school and that we come here as human beings to learn to love unconditionally, to learn the power of love, and that it's so difficult because in soul school versus conventional school, the lesson comes after the test. We are each tested in a series of ways throughout our lives with obstacles that we have to overcome. And then therein lies the lesson in taking the test first. So that's the premise of Soul School. And it's on from 9 to 10 Eastern Time every Friday night on KGRA and on multiple platforms. And it also simulcasts on my Facebook page. And then right after it, I undo that link and I go into the next link, and there we have A World Awakening, which is
Nice.
that's my flagship show. I've been doing it for years and years, and I have a lot of different, very eclectic mix of guests on my show. And I will invite you to come on my show as well so that we can have a whole hour
Absolutely.
of just chatting it up, you and me. It'll be
I
great.
It would be an honor once again. You let me know whenever you like me on. I will be on there 1,000 times if you need me to. It will be a pleasure. Now, can we agree that all the experiences that you went through got you where you are today?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. But that's true of all of us, John. It's true of all of us, no matter what we go through in life, the good, the bad, the ugly, makes us who we are in this moment. And, I know I'm a good person and I help a lot of people, and I bring love into this world and I bring light into this world, and it's because I've been enlightened and I understand the importance of being a good, kind, generous human being. And a lot of that has to do with how I was raised in this house.
That's awesome. Any advice for those out there who may be experiencing the same situations that you went through or are going through currently?
I would say, I mean, unless it's violent, and which is so rare, so rare. But if you're having spirit activity, just observe it. Be kind to them. Keep in mind that if you're living in a quote unquote haunted house, it was their house first.
Yeah.
And we're the intruders. We are the ones that come into what they still perceive to be their space. And it's important that we try to connect with them and have an understanding between us. And therein lies the lesson of what they have to teach us, which is that we are all surrounded by spirit all the time. The spirits of our ancestors, the spirits of our loved ones who are deceased aren't really gone. They're just in another realm. And sometimes there are those moments of connection that are so important and that make us feel less alone in life. When we lose someone that we adore, they're not really gone, they're just around the corner, and we can still communicate with them. And it's a magical, marvelous, mystical, enlightening way to live. It's inspiring.
That's a gem right there. People need to take that into consideration. And wow, that was a beautiful way that people have never told me. That was a good one. That's actually one of the best ones that we've gotten so far. Usually it's just a broad statement or just quick. That was a great one. Thank you so much for those words of advice. Now, any last words or any special shout outs or somebody that you would like to mention before we sign off?
I love my paranormal people. I think the happiest people I know are obsessed with death. But it's not that they're obsessed with death. They're obsessed with finding proof of the afterlife, that we do some way, in some form, go on. There are no experts in this field. None. Anybody that claims to be an expert in the paranormal, run away from them. Because not only are they being disingenuous with you, they're lying to themselves. And so don't even buy into that. We're all little children lost in the dark, finding our way to the light. And so I ask everybody to just hold hands and we'll find our way home together.
And once again, make sure you purchase House of Darkness, House of Light, volumes 1, 2, and 3. Get your copies now. Make sure you check out What's to Come from Andrea Perron. Before we sign off, just want to get into Album of the Week. Album of the Week this week.
Album of the week on the Jmack Experience Podcast.
We're giving it to Taylor Swift, 1989, Taylor's version. And then Movie of the Week.
Movie of the week on the Jmack Experience Podcast.
It's Five Nights at Freddy. It actually comes out today. So if you could get to the movie theater, are you into you're into movies, right? I would say.
Oh yeah, but I don't watch horror movies at all.
Oh no? How ironic.
The only horror movie I've ever seen was The Conjuring. It's because I had to.
Wow, well I'm into. I like It. I wore my It shirt today. I'm big into It. I like Michael Myers. I love horror movies. I like Freddy Krueger, Jason, all that cool stuff.
I like Broadway shows, football, and I watch a lot of news. That's me.
That's awesome. Well, we're going to have another podcast. I know I've taken up some of your time. I know you got things to do today. Who's your favorite football team before we go? I know you're a Patriot fan, I'm assuming, right?
Oh, my God. Of course I'm a Patriot fan.
Well, you're probably not going to like me after this. That's awesome. I'm a Giants fan only because I'm from New York City, but hey. Hey, Andrea Perron, once again, it's been an honor. I hope you have a blessed Halloween and good luck on your travels. Hopefully, I can see you when you're back in town. When will you be? When will you be back in Rhode Island? Do you have any idea?
After the snow melts, I'll be back.
Okay. You don't like the cold.
Frozen tundra and everything starts blooming again. That's when I'll be back.
All right, well, there you have it. Episode 16, Halloween edition. Andrea Perron, we're signing off. Thanks for coming so much on the Jmack Experience podcast. It's been an honor once again. We're signing off. Happy Halloween, everybody. Take care.
Everyone.
Thanks for coming on the Jmack Experience podcast. Be sure to come on for another episode every single week. Until next time, peace.